The year is 4276. The shadow of a tall figure stands on the edge of a cliff with the moon shining high in the sky, overlooking a desolate landscape ravaged by war. For so long, this world has known true peace, but yet now, after 2000 years, we find ourselves in mindless slaughter once again. The people of this land have been living in chaos these past 8 years, with a silent war raging on for 5 of them. The man, now sword in hand, blood-red hair blowing in the strong, dusty winds, closes his eyes to reveal an image of a young girl with pigtailed hair, black as night and the bluest of eyes. Standing next to her is a beautiful, silver-haired woman, both with the most calming expression and gentle smiles. A smile on his face, his eyes open, left eye now holding symbols of both light, a brightly lit cross encasing darkness, an inverted star pulsating in a burning red, both symbols standing in a field of blackened nothingness. A tear rolling down his right cheek, the symbols ignite and begin to break apart, now illuminating his right socket with the brightest of lights, but with his left a deep void, empty and hollow. With a deep breath, he opens his mouth and speaks the words. But by the power of the gods, I promise, this newfound era of murder and bloodshed ends now. Time jumps back 1 month. A crow lands on a telephone wire. A sleeping man's eye awakens suddenly. In his field of blurred vision is the faint sight of an open door leading to a bathroom. He sits up in bed, placing his hand on his face. Yet another horrifying dream of days past. Looking to his left, he sees a beautiful silver-haired woman wrapped in a blanket, sleeping soundly. Lifting his hand, he almost touches her back, but catching a glimpse of her peaceful face, he decides not to disturb her. He gives a smile while looking at her. Noticing he had knocked them off while sitting up, he fixes the covers back around her. Getting out of bed slowly, trying his best not to wake her, he moves towards the bathroom he first envisioned when he had woken up, deciding to get his day started. Closing the door softly behind him. Passing the mirror, caught by the image, he stops. Gazing deeply at the scars, his eyes begin to wander around his strong muscular body, each etching telling the horrific story of war. Hands racing up to his face, images of running through a dark plain of violence, men, women and children slaughtered endlessly, the colour of crimson staining both sky and ground alike. Bodies upon bodies piling, explosions, gunfire, and the screaming sounds of petrifying fear from the innocent echoing throughout his mind. The sounds of chains ring out, while the ice-cold grip of steel can be felt around his wrists. The intense sharp pain of being cut over and over. Images of being beaten and slashed appear in his mind. The tearing of flesh, his body seizing in pain. Hands clashing with his face, snapping him back to reality. Pulling them away, he stares deeply at his reflection. This shit has gotta stop. It's becoming an almost everyday thing. Every year is the same deal leading up to today. Finally calmed down, he collects himself and continues with turning on the shower. He strips down and enters. Finishing up, he switches the shower off and steps out, wrapping himself in a towel. Steam obscuring his vision, he opens the window slightly, tying up his long blonde hair before wiping off the mirror. The slight sound of moving covers in the next room can be heard. Opening the door slowly, making sure not to wake the woman from her slumber, time seems to stand still. The vision of the woman with silver hair as she's sitting up, stretching her arms out wide while yawning. In a sweet tone, with a kind smile, she says, "Good morning." His heart skips a beat, the same feeling he always gets when looking into her soft blue eyes. "Good morning, gorgeous." Cheeks lighting up, embarrassed at the greeting, with a cute pout, she replies, "I just woke up. I'm not gorgeous at all." She looks at him concerned. "You've been having that dream again, haven't you?" Responding with a smile, "I apologize for smiling, but you always see right through me, don't you, Ayumi?" Walking towards her, he sits down on the corner of the bed. "Yeah." He lowers his head into his chest. "It's been happening for some time now, hasn't it, Ryu?" She gets out from beneath the covers and crawls towards him, placing her arms over his shoulders and leaning her head against his. "Please, I know it's only been 5 years since the war, but you must forgive yourself already." You saved so many people, it breaks my heart to see you still beating yourself up. Ryu feels a soft sensation on his cheek as she kisses him. You saved me that day too, remember? He places his hands up behind her head and holds her close, sharing a quiet moment together. A rustling noise can be heard in the next room over. Ryu, suddenly realizing that he's naked, in a towel, jumps up off the bed, accidentally hitting his shoulder off Ayumi's chin. Ow! She falls back into a kneeling position on the bed. Ryu turning around quickly in shock. Oh crap, damn it, I'm so sorry. I just noticed I was still in a... Shocked to feel a breeze where he shouldn't, Ryu looks down to find out his towel had fallen to the ground and he was completely naked. Ayumi's face takes on the brightened red look of embarrassment. Her heart pounding, she bursts into laughter. A door opens in the background. Shit, shit, shit. Frantically picking up his towel, running swiftly back into the bathroom, Ayumi, now in fits, laughing. Mommy, mommy! Calling faintly heard through the wall. Calming herself down. In here, Yui. Little footsteps moving fast, a little girl with jet black hair and the biggest sparkling blue eyes comes running down the small hallway and jumps onto the bed. Mommy, what are you laughing at? Ayumi laughs yet again and replies, Oh, it's nothing, Yui. Daddy was just being silly is all. Yui looks up at Ayumi and they both continue to laugh. Downstairs, a nice sunny day lights the house. Ryu, now relaxing on the couch with his feet up, watching the television, hears footsteps on his right. Catching a small hand out of the corner of his eye, running along the arm of the couch, as he turns his head, there is Yui, all dressed up in her new dark blue dress with a white collar. A small purple ribbon lays tied around her wrist. Daddy, do you like the new dress Mommy made for me? She says with a smile. Smiling back at her, he sits up and places his hand on her head. Of course I do, sweetie. You're the prettiest girl in the whole world. Your mom is very talented, isn't she? Smiling the biggest smile, she places her hand on her cheeks. Mommy really is the greatest. Ayumi comes walking out of the kitchen door behind the couch wearing a skin-tight black polo neck and a short skirt, with her hair tied up high, almost like a silver waterfall flowing off the back of her head. Yui happily runs to her side. Mommy, Daddy said I was the prettiest in the world. You really are, Yui. Now how about we make the prettiest girl her favorite dinner and dessert? Yui hugs into Ayumi. Yay! She says with excitement. Ryu's attention is diverted away from his loving family as a breaking news story appears on the television. With the 5th anniversary of the world's first war in over 2,000 years, the President has issued this message to the public. It's been 5 years since our world has been ravaged by the worst war our great nation has ever seen. We lived in peace ever since the days of our ancestors, who just barely survived the world's end back in the war to end all wars somewhere around the year 2020. But I swear to you all, we will live in peace again. Our latest reports show that there are only roughly 35 small rebel factions left scattered about these lands, trying to do our proud nation harm, and once we have finally dealt with these terrorists, our new time of peace shall finally begin. Deep in thought, Ryu noticed the man dressed in the black cape, long wild black hair sticking out from underneath his hood, his eyes seeped in an endless darkness, almost hypnotizing in appearance. Why the fuck am I feeling this weird? Just who is this guy? Missing the rest of the announcement, the program he was previously watching continues. Ryu feels a hand on the back of his neck and snaps out of his trance. Are you okay over here? You're looking kinda worried again. Turning around to see his wife and daughter full of smiles. Well, that's good to hear. It's just I asked you, would you mind going to get Yui's favorite ice cream about 5 or 6 times now and I got no answer. Oh, yeah, of course I will. Sorry, I must have fully zoned out there for a minute. Which one was that again? She continues to laugh. Wow, you really must be still in your little zone if you can't remember that. Yui giggles along beside her. Silly daddy, it's mint chocolate, just like mommy's. Staring up at both of the people he loves most in the world. Of course it is. How could I ever forget a thing like that? Standing up, Ryu begins to get ready to leave, putting on his hoodie and changing out of his tracksuit bottoms for jeans. He walks into the kitchen and throws his arms around Ayumi. She turns slightly as he kisses her. Okay, I'm off. I'll be back shortly. I love you. She kisses him back. Okay, well hurry on back now so you don't miss me too much. She winks jokingly while sticking out her tongue. Smiling, walking towards the front door, Yui runs out behind him, grabbing hold of his leg and hugging on tightly. See you soon, Daddy. He turns around and kneels down, looking at her little smile. Tell you what, I'll even pick you both up something a little extra too, okay? For always being such a good girl. But shh now, and don't tell Mommy until I get home so we can surprise her together. Yui giggles. Okay, I promise. Both share a hug and he kisses her forehead goodbye. Closing the door behind him, 4 crows sitting on a wire watching down from overhead. Ryu looks up to watch them, finding them so beautifully mysterious, before continuing on down the road. Getting to the bridge crossing the river, loud screams can be heard across the way. He runs towards them to investigate. Upon his arrival, he stumbles upon a man being attacked. Running to help him, the sight of his attacker stops him dead in his tracks. A man with both of his eyes swirling in darkness, and half of his body in an almost melted state, growling in anger. Fuck, it's one of these monster things. Panicked, knowing the ferocity of the beast in front of him, Ryu speaks to the man that's looking up from the ground in fear. Get up and run! Now! The man looks up dumbfounded. Get the fuck up and run now, you'll die, you idiot! The man frantically stumbles to his feet and begins to run. The beast in rage swings towards Ryu. Dodging just fine, he stops to gather his composure, trying to think of a strategy on how to defeat, or at the very least, get the thing away from the town. All of a sudden, as if out of nowhere, the army shows up, dressed from head to toe in black, with white writing displaying the name GOU, Global Organizational Unit, on their shoulder, all jogging in unison. Every member wearing a black mask with thick black goggles. Lining up in formation, they begin to open fire on the monster. Screaming in pain, the beast falls over, and the team moves in fast to capture it. From overhead, a massive military chopper arrives to recover the team. The chopper lands and opens its door, letting out another team escorting what appears to be some kind of modified black steel cage. It all happens so fast, Ryu is left to register what is happening before him. The team of soldiers run towards him, and the small crowd that had gathered around from all the commotion. Staring at the crowd, everybody moves on quickly in fear. Ryo also begins to walk, the monster never leaving his sight. That is a person, right? I haven't came face to face with many of these creatures before, and only ever usually from a distance. Well, that is until recently. It was 5 years ago, after the huge explosion that ended the war, that these fucks started to appear out of nowhere. But now it's almost an everyday occurrence. Just what in the world is going on? Back at the house, Ayumi and Yui are having fun preparing dinner, awaiting Ryu's arrival home. Mommy, can I have a cookie while I wait for dinner, please? Yui hanging off the back of one of the chairs in the kitchen, acting in her usual cute little way. Not right now, Yui. We can have some after, okay? I just don't want you ruining your appetite. Yui runs over and hugs into the back of her legs. Okay then, but later, you promise? She smiles up at her mother. A quick knock on the door is heard. Yui turns and runs out trying to answer it. Yay, Daddy's back. Her screams flowing throughout the rooms. Ayumi smiles. That little girl is crazy when it comes to her father. She can't even open the front door, but yet she still runs out anyways. Always has to be the first one to greet him. Walking out to follow Yui, a sudden noise catches her attention. Back down to town, Ryu now leaving the store holding a paper bag with 2 small bouquets of little white flowers sticking out at the top, ones which Ayumi loved very much. What could this be now? Looking up, the sun reflecting off the windows of high-rise buildings catches his eye. His head sinks back down to the ground. Not like I can do much anyways. I couldn't even do anything when I was confronted with that monster back there. Better just head back home. Dinner's almost ready by now, and I don't want to make the girls worry too much. Best leave things up to the soldiers. Putting his worries aside, he continues his walk home. Standing on the bridge, a little ways down from his house, Ryu, snapping out of his thoughts, looks up to see smoke in the distance. That's coming from the back of our house. Shit, I gotta hurry. He begins to jog slowly at first, but as worry sets in, his pace picks up. Now closer to his house, his heart beats faster the more the image reveals itself. A massive hole with smoke rising from all around. Getting to the street he lives, the destruction is unbearable as ash falls from the sky, with some of the surrounding buildings still on fire. The aroma of burning flesh in the air. In complete worry, he sprints home as fast as his legs can carry him. No, Please, no. Where is everything gone? His heart racing so fast it could jump out of his chest at any moment. They have to be okay. They can't have gotten. Words escape him and Ryu's jaw drops at the sight of nothing but rubble. Dropping everything in his hands, he runs towards where their house used to stand. He spots on the street a trail of blood leading to a body of what appeared to be a salesman of sorts, leaning against the wall across the road. Following the blood back to where his front door used to stand, words escape him and Ryu's jaw drops to the sight of nothing but rubble while tears flow heavily from his eyes. Ayumi, Yui, you can't be. Just before he continues, Ryu's field of vision is brought to what looks to be his hallway door laying where his sitting room used to be. Underneath there seems to be something small sticking out. Yui, is that you? He calls out in a panicked state, running towards the door. Yui, are you okay? Lifting up the door, his eyes pinned in terror. An arm wrapped in a burnt blue fabric with a small purple ribbon around the wrist. Dropping to his knees, screaming in tears. Ryu now holding the last remaining fragment of his beloved little daughter, taking the hand and placing the little fingers between his, remembering all of the times he held this hand as she grew. Flashing pictures of holding her as a baby clouding his vision. Please don't be gone from me. He cries out, squeezing the dismembered arm close to his chest. Frantically, Ryu jumps up, dropping the arm and begins rooting through the wreckage. Even knowing he will not find anything, but needing to put his mind at rest, he continues digging and screaming out his wife and daughter's names. Hands covered in blood and dirt, he stops, placing his head deep into his chest. Why? Why the fuck does this have to happen? Tears rolling down his cheeks. It's not fair. They never did anything wrong, so why did this have to happen? Thoughts of Ayumi and Yui flow through his mind as he feels himself breaking more and more. Ryu stands upon the rubble and slowly walks back to Yui's tiny arm with a look of utter sadness. Picking the arm up, he unties the ribbon, staring at it blankly as tears flow constant. About to place it in his pocket, the loud voices begin to echo throughout his mind. What the fuck is going on? Screaming out, eyes fogging over in darkness, he begins to stumble all about. What the fuck is... Falling to the ground, hands over his face, eyes gone hollow, the images of dancing shadows floating all around. Ryu remembers the eyes of the man-type monster that he had seen earlier. Could this be what's happening to... Thoughts begin to fade, drowning in the screams of billions. An elderly man wearing a suit with a briefcase, supporting himself up with a walking stick, slowly stumbles behind him. Excuse me, sir, is everything okay? Noticing the hard-to-miss crumbling foundation of all the buildings around him, the man stands in shock. Oh, please, no. Just what in the world happened here? I heard the explosion from down the road, and I thought I'd come to check it out, but I never expected this. Ryu raises to his feet, eyes blackened out. The fight to consume his soul continues. Darkness seeping out all around, and with one sudden movement, a hand appears out of the elderly man's back. Standing in terror, gasping for breath, the man tries to speak. One flick of Ryu's wrist cuts the man straight up the middle. Pulling the heart out from the man's chest, he bites into it. Covered in blood, he drops the bitten heart as the body falls limp to the ground. A stream of blood flows down the pathway. Looking down at the corpse, the sight means nothing to him. Lifting his head, glaring on with the cold look of death, his body no longer his own. A woman in a red dress walks into his field of hollow sight. The man moves one step so quickly she never sees it coming. The woman's head floats through the air, now detached from her shoulders. Her last sight is of a blonde-haired man with black eyes covered in patches of red. A sudden gasp is heard in the distance, bringing a small crowd into his now stained crimson path. In the front is a young man with mid-length brown hair wearing a grey hoodie similar to the one that Ryu has on, standing in complete fear, as are all in the crowd. With the blink of an eye, Ryu's hand now placed right between the young man's eyes, sticking out the back of his skull, killing him instantly. Pulling his hand from his now lifeless body, the screams of people trying to run away. As soon as their back is turned, Ryu slaughters each and every one of them. So fast, body parts begin to stack up in little piles all around him. Stop it! A voice screams out from the darkness. Don't you dare kill another person with my fucking hands. The voice becomes clearer and Ryu's body falls to its knees, fingers sticking through the knotty, blood-drenched hair. releasing what appears to be some kind of energy wave pulsating from every fibre of his being. I will never let myself be taken over by you, so fuck off out of me. His conscience fighting to break free. Barely lifting his head, Ryu is captivated by the moment. Billions of crows now covering everything in sight, all cawing as if conversing with one another before taking flight. Still fighting for control, Ryu can't help but be mesmerized as they all fly in circles, creating a massive black void, almost similar to a tornado in shape, slowly fusing themselves together into a singular mass of energy, eventually taking on the shape similar to a huge black bird. Its power is so warm and comforting. Kneeling in the blood and pieces of people he just massacred, energy pouring out rapidly all around him in thick black waves, staring intensely at the massive force flying before him. Absolutely amazing, he thinks. The massive energy spreads its wings and soars towards Ryu. Not having full control over his body, the energy hit, absorbing the bird into where his left eye should be. Screaming and writhing in agony, the sense of nothingness envelops him. Open your eyes, child, a voice can be heard coming from deep within. Who's that? Why can I not see you? The old man's voice can be heard again. You just need to open your eyes. Ryu opens his eyes slowly, blinded by a black room of piercing lights, carrying the shape of people hardly recognizable, with a faint sound of calming voices whispering, is that him? Is he the one? In front of them stands an old man with a long beard, shrouded in robes of times past. See us now, do you? Ryu confused. Where are we? What's going on here? Relax, dear boy. All will be explained soon enough, the man kindly replies. We've been watching you closely for some time now. Ryu stunned and more confused than ever. Just now, what was that? Why couldn't I move? And what was all that screaming inside my head? The old man laughed. Questions, my boy. Just please calm down and focus your mind. Ryu kneels and closes his eyes once again, feeling a powerful presence deep inside him. Oh man, what is this intense sensation I feel? The man slowly walks closer and places his hand on top of his head. Focus, boy. Faceless voices like static can be heard faintly whispering in despair in his mind. Do you hear them crying out? Ryu listens carefully. Why? Why are they all so sad? Why so angry? The old man releases his hand from the top of his head and places it back on his cane. They are the souls of the lost, from both now and from all throughout time. Fallen beings forever cased in darkness. What do you mean? Like demons? I guess you could say that. They certainly look and act a part when they are taking over, but it's not as simple as that, I'm afraid. The old man continued. Let me ask you, what do you think happens when you die? Ryu thinks long and hard. Honestly, it's a hard question, as nobody really ever knows the answer to that. But I would like to think that we move on to some kind of better existence. The old man looks down. And would you not think that life itself would be considered the thing that is better? Contemplating on what the old man has said. What do you mean? Really, think about it. Smelling, touching, tasting, feeling. These are all things the dead can't do. Ryu looks at him oddly. The old man taps his cane. Let me explain quickly before your nose caves into the back of your face from all that scrunching. There are 3 planes of existence. The light, dark, and your plane of life. Light and dark have been at war for as long as I can possibly remember, and your plane is the result of that war, created from an overflowing surge of power used from both sides over the span of eons, and so we could not help but feel responsible for our new creation. After very long negotiations, we finally agreed to a truce as the result of our mutual feelings. We began searching throughout what later became known by your kind as the universe. Examining every inch, we came across endless amounts of different races. Some were different kinds of creatures who had extreme intelligence but only wanted to control and conquer others. And then there were the kinds who only lived for nothing but utter destruction. Unfortunately, this too was a result of our combined powers at play, and so we thought it was doomed to fail. That is, until we came across humanity. Humanity? We really existed all the way back then? Ryu responds. Yes, of course. You were the perfect blend of the two, but yet so underdeveloped. Conversing amongst ourselves, the beings of light came up with an idea. We would use our powers to break up this open endless space into different sections, again what later became known by your kind as galaxies, in which we sealed off different races from one another. We had hoped that doing this would allow you all to develop in your own certain ways, though the beings of darkness did not like this one bit, as they felt that because we made you, you were ours to control, and so they seen ye as merely puppets to manipulate as they see fit, sort of like a game in a way. Knowing this, we finally had our answer as to why they stopped the war so easily, and so with this revelation, a new war had begun. Only this time it was now for the protection of the plane that we had created. Ryu opens his eyes and looks up calmly. I'm sorry, but what exactly is your name and how do you know all of this? Looking down over him, the man smiles. My name? Now that is a question I have not been asked in quite some time. He lifts his head and looks up in remembrance. You may call me Xanthos. Ryu stands to his feet. Xanthos, huh? What an unusual name, Ryu responds, as he had never heard such a name before. Xanthos still smiling with his thoughts. It was a name given to me by a friend a very long time ago, one in which I came to favor over my own, but that is a story for another time. So you are all beings of light, I take it. But why are you here? Where am I? Am I dead or something? Very good, boy. We are indeed, and no, you are not dead, although I can see why you would think that. This place is deep within your consciousness. I guess you could call it a brighter version of where you were before you broke free from that malevolent force. Ryu recalls being smothered in a deep sea of darkness. Oh, I see. Xanthos looks over to the crowd of light. We are the protectors of the light in this world. The monsters you see are the beings of darkness that possess and try fusing with the body that it tries to take over. As your light, or soul as your kind call it, tries to fight back, the body cannot take the force and begins to break down to form the grotesque creatures that you see, and that would be the feeling that you felt. The people consumed will never stop feeling the pain and suffering they felt when they met their end. But you, my friend, your light was incredibly strong, so much so that we noticed it the moment you were born. This is why we've been watching over you, and seeing you fight off not just one but billions of their forces. I knew you really were the one. So all of us, flocking together, we decided that we would lend you our aid in hopes that you will use this power to take the world back for the light. Ryu stands to his feet. You said take this world back. Is the situation really that bad? Open your eyes, Ryu. Go take a good hard look at the world and decide for yourself. Ryu's consciousness slowly returns to his body, the scent of iron still taking the air. A cold breeze hits his fingers and his hand twitches. Eyes beginning to open. His left eye now is black as the night sky, holding a glowing seal of both light and dark. I can't believe I killed them all. A voice is heard inside his mind. It's not your fault, dear boy. This is just what happens to the possessed, unfortunately. Be grateful you broke free when you did. I've seen these types of beasts wipe out entire cities. I will never be grateful for my hands being used to take lives, but I suppose I can somewhat see your point. Slowly his vision returns. Tell me, old man, what is this blackness I see rising up from the ground in my left eye? That right there is what ended the Great War. It started as a massive ball of energy, which somehow caused a rift leading to the plane of darkness. This in turn caused people in the surrounding area to turn into those beasts. It all happened so fast it was complete chaos as soldiers began to tear one another apart endlessly. Ryu stands up from the ground, the feel of blood still heavy upon him. What? But the government and news said that it was an explosion from the resistance that killed everyone on the battlefield back then. That's been the story ever since the war ended. Trust what I tell you is the truth. The explosion was strictly for the purpose of making the gate, nothing more. And Ryu begins to speak when the sudden sound of boots hitting the ground can be heard moving in unison. There's somebody coming, Xanthos says. Ryu closes his eyes and listens carefully. By the sounds of it, it's 8 men, all carrying weapons. Shit, it's a GOU. Hold on, what is this dark glow around them? By the looks of things, they've already been taken over, unfortunately. This is what happens to people with weaker lights or people who take life. They keep their human forms, but they are gone. Also, their level of darkness is considered very low, and in turn, it causes them not to lose their human shape. I will not kill any more people. Just look deeper, Ryu. Ryu focuses. Are all of them really hollow? He looks on with a cold glare. So even the fucking army are monsters now, I guess. The soldiers begin to squeeze the trigger on their weapons. Ryu lifts up his hand and the 8 men vanish instantly. Okay, what just happened, old man? That would be the power we gave to you. I see. Ryu looks down on his hand, turning around, looking back at the bodies of the dead, and then back to where the little arm lays. He pulls out the ribbon from his pocket, now covered in blood, taking a deep breath in. Xanthos, answer me this, my friend. Do you know what put that massive hole over there? I do, but let's just get out of this place first before more soldiers, or even worse, monsters appear. Ryu rubs the ribbon between his fingers. Ayumi, Yui, I promise you, we will see each other again. Placing the ribbon back into his pocket. Okay, let's get the fuck out of here. Ryu turns away from the tragic scene and begins to run.